Hello, and welcome to another review video. This time around, I'll be looking at the latest GungHo Collab rerun. This run comes with 3 new GungHo Collab 2 units, and a few other buffs, though these do not really make much of a difference. The last run happened a little over 2 months ago, and for this run, like last time, we have 2 REMs to roll in. The GungHo Collab 1 machine has a very different lineup from last time, but it's still not worth to roll. The GungHo 2 REM has the same lineup plus those 3 previously mentioned units, and it might be worth a few pulls. That is, unless you got everything you wanted from last time, or you feel like you could get more value from future REMs and thus might want to skip this. I think most of my comments from my previous review are still relevant, so for this video, I will only be focusing on some of the noteworthy buffs and the 3 new units. But let me know if you think I overlooked anyone, and please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. When it comes to non-REM units, we now have a new descended boss, Ibergloce. This unit is not needed for any sync awakenings, and they don't really seem particularly useful, so I might clear the dungeon just once to get the stone and be done with it. Both Evos do have interesting active skills, but might not be that useful. Active skills that create nail orbs are not that plentiful, but they have very limited uses. Avoid attribute absorption plus a pierce effect on one active skill is an uncommon combination, but this unit requires 50 scale up just to make it somewhat viable. The chibi version of this boss has a fixed board, but its effects are very slow for ranking dungeons. On the off chance that these are useful, you might want to grab at least 1 copy of each. Now as to the REM units, those from the GungHo 1 machine could also be obtained from the add REM, so remember to do your adds. Most of those units are still very useless, but free REM units are always nice to get. Do not get any high hopes though, since the rates for these are still very low. And speaking of GungHo 1, this time around, I would skip that REM again, as none of those units are all that useful. Some of these are a bit more useful than others, like Orage and Reach. Orage can be used to lead some water swipe teams, but thankfully you don't have to go into the REM since this unit is exchangeable. Reach is also exchangeable, and she's also somewhat interesting since her active skill now also has an auto heal effect. In a rainbow team, her active skill will be active for 5 out of 7 turns, but those teams are not that popular, and even if you want to fit her in a team, 2 turns of downtime might make this a very unattractive unit. Now as for the buffed units from GungHo 2, a bunch of these, like Enisu, Hisui, and Arthur, got a slight upgrade to their cap break effects. These are welcome buffs, but marginal at best. If you didn't go after these units last time around, I don't think these buffs will change your mind. Some other units' cooldowns will reduce, or the effects from their active skills have now been changed. Uranus' second stage active skill can now loop, but it's still on a too high of a cooldown for a cleric. Lilith's cooldown is now 3 turns, so now it's even easier to system her, but I still think her leader skill needed to get some bonus combos to make her more viable as a leader. Hino Kagatsuchi's second stage active skill is now on a 5-turn cooldown, but fire teams like Bells don't really have a lot of space for this unit, since fire has better options when it comes to dealing with absorption. Vivian's HP buff and shield now lasts for 2 turns, so even if she interrupts a looping shield, her 2-turn duration should help reduce your downtime without a shield. Or her active skill can now help you tank ahead after an undead animation. Origin is now on a 4-turn cooldown, down from 5 turns, which is great overall. She's definitely one of the better options to counter absorption shields in light teams. Some other units got extra effects added to their active skill. Lakshmi and Rudra now clear unmatchables with their first stage active skill, but I don't think that this does all that much for them. Even though the unit's equips were not touched, I would still look into exchanging for this unit since their second equip is still very solid. Crowley and Stella were the main highlights of this collab last time around, and even though that's still the case, both of them are probably not that appealing this time around. Crowley is a strong leader, but might soon be overshadowed by other light leaders if we get an alternate journey rerun. Even though she might not be appealing as a leader, her equip is still amazing, especially for parts farming teams. Stella is a great cleric in her base form and a great looping shield in her chibi form, but since NA now has access to Aurora, Stella is much easier to replace in some teams. But if you couldn't get Aurora, you might still want to get Stella. If you buy bundles, I would try to buy these and skip the REM. Even if you bought them last time, having an extra copy of these two might not be the worst idea. But if you don't buy bundles, I would be very wary about chasing BGMs, since that can be a very painful experience. Now as for the new units, these are all exchangeable for 10 GungHo Collab 2 units. I would honestly not bother rolling for fodder just to get these units. MeiXin and XiaoXing do not have an equip, so you'd have to look into where to use their base or chibi form. The base can work as a tricolor leader, though their leader skill only gives 5x HP, which is not low, but I wish it were a little bit higher. Having their FUA tied to how many combos you make is a bit annoying, and will most definitely require running her on a 7x6 board so that you can reach enough combos to deal with super results in the newer dungeons. This cleric can also handle orb generation on a fortune cooldown, but like with most clerics that have some other important effect in their active skill, it might be a little bit tricky to time this unit since you're gonna be most likely relying on this skill to generate activatable boards. If you lead with 2 of this unit, you won't have to worry about activating your leader skill damage reduction, since this unit only boosts HP, but the obvious downside from that is that team will suffer in dungeons with multiple gravity attacks. Void damage shields on enemies are very common, and this unit's active skill doesn't offer much pierce coverage. The Chibi Evo has a lot of utility and is a board size fixer and damage absorption voider, but I wish that the active skill also counter attribute absorption since the cooldown is pretty high already, and there are other comparable units that tackle both absorptions on a similar cooldown. Both of these forms can synergize with the Norns. The base for this new unit is the cap breaker for these balanced RBG teams. The only downside is the fact that you can only activate the second stage active skill every 7 turns, meaning that the cap break and the other effects can be easily interrupted by enemies. The Chibi Evo has a decent mix of utility and damage, but like with the previous unit's Chibi, the active skill only tackles one type of absorption. So to get coverage against those 2 absorptions, you will be required to run at least one of each in a team. This Chibi unit also counters other debuffs and generates a board on a fortune cooldown. An example team making use of these units might have up to 3 copies of each. So if you want to play these teams right now, get ready to get multiple copies of these new GungHo Collab units. In the near future, we'll get more support for these tricolor teams with Pad Academy MeiFang. Here's an example team, and as you can see, the team still uses 2 copies of each of these new units. MeiFang is an orb skin unit, so she'll set you back $20 or a lot of stones if you decide to chase her in the REM. So trying to make up this team will take up a lot of resources, and all of that effort will be for a pretty mediocre team. A team like this one can still tackle the endgame and might get more support in the future, but by then, these GungHo Collab units will be very outdated. As an example, some of the Conan units are way better orb generators, and those teams probably have a bit more flexibility when it comes to team building. We have no idea if that collab will make it to NA, and even if I was sure that it's not gonna make it to NA, I would save up my fodder, stones, and money and not invest in this tricolor team. The team of 6 young adult unit is a looping HP buffer that can be a decent rainbow leader. The high effective HP from the leader skill and having both FUA and bonus combos are all great qualities for this unit. But since the leader skill requires matching 5 attributes every single turn to activate its damage reduction, you might not have the easiest time playing this leader. Still, overall, this is a strong unit that has a decent amount of utility, though the active skill might not have effects that I would consider essential. You could pair this unit with Gino, but the Rainbow era has come and gone, so this playstyle might not be all that interesting to you, especially so in the new endgame dungeons. The main highlight for this unit is the equip. The awakenings are all great, but the active skill might not be that useful on the first turn of a dungeon. The low cooldown means that you can easily overcharge it to deal with specific counters, so it might actually not be all that bad, especially because this equip could even save you at least 1 team slot. If you have enough fodder, I would definitely take a look at this unit first. Stella and Crowley are still the biggest highlights from this REM. These are less attractive options, now with Aurora in NA and possible future REMs that could come to our server. But if you're missing those 2 GungHo BGMs and have a decent amount of stones, maybe it'll be worthwhile to do a few pulls. But don't hold your breath, since these BGMs have a 1% pull rate. if you buy bundles, and even if you did it last time, buying another Stella or Crowley might not be too bad of an idea, since Stella has 2 very strong evos, and even if you don't care about using Crowley as a unit, she still has a very strong equip. Some of the exchangeable units might be worth taking a look, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't say that there's anything here of high priority. At best, these units could be decent equips, like Rudra and Lakshmi's, or the 6 young adults equip. I still think that these exchangeables are not worth rolling for, but use your own discretion. Even though there's a chance that NA might not get some of the future collabs that JP has gotten, I will still try to save up for those future REMs. We have no idea if we'll get the Gundam Reskin, IQ, or Conan collab, but on the off chance that we do, I would rather spend stones there. Pad Academy is an easy skip, but that seasonal will make it to NA within the next month or two. And if you for some reason like the new RBG units, you might want to chase Mei Fang in that REM. Maybe at some point, GungHo will actually give us a date for Pad Cafe, and that in-house is probably going to be worth a handful of pulls. Let me know if I've overlooked any GungHo collab unit, but at the end of the day, I think that this is a REM you can easily skip, especially because we have a non-zero chance of 2 strong collabs making it to NA very soon. Both will give you a bigger bang for your stones. Thank you guys for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And a special thanks go out to Ages Number 1, Breastfeeding Obama, Dark Silencers, Bella Derpy, and Lynx for supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.